Now, the Bram Weinstein Show on Washington's new home for sports, ESPN 630.
Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. What's up? Combine Palooza. What's up?
Are you sick of it yet?
Day.
You sick of it yet?
I'm never sick of it. I'm a junkie for this stuff. I'm like,
it's only 2 months to go, guys.
Oh man. Well, I mean, for me, it's just you can't give me enough of it. Really, I'm one of those. I don't care about them running 40s and doing squats and all that. That stuff I don't care about. Mm-hmm. Like, just tell me. Like, even the numbers when I see them, unless some guy runs a 3.8, then I'm like, I don't care.
You're like, cool.
Yeah. I'm like, whoa. Maybe we should draft that guy. I don't care. But like, I love all the news. And today was quarterback day because all the quarterbacks spoke. So that was right. Cool. We'll get into that in a minute. But let's start with the news, which is the first major move with the roster for the Commanders did happen today. They are releasing Charles Leno, who's been their starting left tackle for a couple of years now. From cap purposes, and I kind of flagged this for a while, like he was a likely candidate for this because there's like a $7+ million savings on their cap if they do it. He was scheduled to be like a $15 million cap hit for a starting left tackle isn't that high, but he also isn't the top tier of the tackles. Then they just reported, I didn't realize this was happening. He's having hip surgery. So, his career is probably in jeopardy now with that, or at least, if he's having hip surgery now,
it's a lengthy recovery. Yeah, it's
a lengthy recovery. So, I wish him luck. I like Charles a lot. He's a very nice guy. They had a terrible thing happen in their family last fall that we had to, that we went through with, they had a miscarriage. It was terrible. So I felt for him then. I like Charles a lot. Last year, he was one of the disgruntled people, last year.
Right.
And I think like because of his cap number, because of his age, because of his health history now, obviously he was a candidate for this. So none of this is really a surprise to me. The other one I'm really watching is Logan Thomas. They haven't said anything about him. There is a cap savings if they were to release him. But I'll say the same thing about Leno that I say about Thomas, and nothing's happened with Logan yet. They don't really have his replacement on the team. It's not like they couldn't try to find that either in free agency or more likely through the draft with the amount of draft capital they have. I talked about this a lot. Like you're finding these receiving tight ends in the draft in the second to fourth round that are plug-and-play players.
Yep.
Dallas drafted two of them. Laporta was great for Detroit. He was not a first-round pick. The high-end ones are going relatively high. Like Brock Bowers is going to go very high. Dalton Kincaid went at the end of the first round last year. But Luke Musgrave wasn't. Jake Ferguson wasn't. Pendergast wasn't. Hunter Pendergast wasn't. So you can find these guys. And so I think Washington, I think they'll probably have to get their draft plans in order. And are they going to earmark a tight end? And if that's the case, then I think Logan at his age and cap savings might be a cap cut as well. But we'll see. With Leno, the only thing that I had, like, I'm not surprised this happened. Now knowing the health thing, I'm really not surprised this happened. But like, the only thing that like gave me any pause with it was they do not have his replacement on the roster.
That's right.
At all. So It is another hole for them to deal with. But they do get significant savings in doing it. The dead cap for this year is not that big of a deal. I would actually eat the whole thing and not even spread it out because they have so much cap room that I think you could eat it and just move on. It would be about $8 million. Yeah. You could do a post-June 1 designation and kind of spread it out if you really want to. But the savings for this year is about 7.2. So that gets them now back over $80+ million in cap space. And so one of two things is going to have to happen now. And, it does a couple of things. It does reopen the idea because they don't have a starting left tackle that trading down remains a possibility here. Sure. If Caleb Williams is going to go number one, and that is the guy that they want, then I think there is a possibility that they will think at number two, if they're going to get 3 first-round picks or something and fall just a little farther down in the top 10, they can be pretty much assured of getting one of the 2 top tackles. I don't think that's what they're going to do, but I think it's on the table now that they've done this, or they could go into free agency to get a tackle. That is not a position that rarely do you get a top tier one available to you, right? Like the Trent Williams thing was an unusual circumstance because of what was happening here with him. You don't typically get a top tier one.
Yeah.
If you do, you got to spend a lot of money on them, but they have a lot of money to spend. So maybe that's where they throw some money. I'd have to go look and see who's available to see if there's anybody of kind of that caliber that's worth the 20 to 25 million a year that you'd have to pay. Or they could trade down, which I don't think they would do, but it's now on the table because of this and because there are very good prospects coming out, top 10 tackles that are coming out. Or they have 2 second-round picks. early in the second round. The Bears one that they got for the Montez Sweat trade, and of course their own, which is high, right? So they got 2 of them. So there's ways to go around this too. They could package those, move back into the first round, and get a left tackle later if the right person falls. It won't be the guy from Penn State, and it won't be Joe Alt because they're going to go top 10. But the third one off the board, and last year that turned out to be Broderick Jones, who came out of Georgia and has turned into a stalwart for Pittsburgh. Like, that turned out to be a great pick. You know, I think there's a possibility there. So that's what I'm looking at here. This has to be addressed, obviously. Free agency is going to tell the tale on that. Do they go and spend money on something like this? Because there's no way they can go into the season with the roster as is at that position. There's just no way. It's too big of a hole. So I'm watching them to package those 2 second-round picks and move up into the first round again and take a second first-round pick, and it would probably be for what they hope will be their starting left tackle, which is a little scary. If you go rookie quarterback, rookie left tackle, that is typically a recipe for you might have some problems the first year or two. But if you get 2 studs, the hope is by year 2, 3, you've got, you know, the makings of cornerstones, the quarterback, hopefully, and the left tackle, hopefully.
Well, you know, if this was Ron, he would just move Sam Cosmi to left tackle.
No, if this was Ron, he would find whatever bargain was out there and say he's really good and PFF grades him well.
He played for the Panthers in 2018.
Yeah, well, I mean that's what he did. Like, that would be the modus operandi of Ron.
Trey Turner, come on down.
Trey Turner, Andrew Norwell, Nick Gates, Andrew Wiley. They went through an array of this where they went and looked for a bargain replacement that's a professional, but a bargain replacement. And I just don't think that this group is going to look at it this way. And this is not a surprise, but it does open up they have to do something about this. Like, there's no way around that. And it screams that they're going to have to do something probably in free agency and the draft because I don't know how this group is going to feel about Andrew Wiley starting at right tackle too.
Sure.
He might be a guard for them. Right. He might be a guard. So they could be looking at 2 new tackles, definitively 1. They do not have anybody, in my opinion, on the roster that fills in. Like, Jayden Daniels might work out, but we don't know what this group is going to think of him. I mean, he didn't play last year, and he was a work in progress. He was raw. They even admitted that. But he was also a mid-round pick. So, like, that working out to be a 10-year starting left tackle is often not the case.
That's right.
So we'll have to see. So my guess is this is where they're going to spend their money in free agency. If there's the right left tackle, and they're going to just pay a price to do it because they can. Especially if they take a quarterback, and it would make more sense to get a veteran, because you're not, coaching them up. Or if they don't do it in free agency, it's a guarantee that one of those 2 second-round picks is a tackle, or I would actually project that they will try to package those 2 to get back into the first round at some level and probably take a tackle there. So I'm primed now with this move that Washington selects 2 first-round picks this year one way or another. That's what I think.
No matter what, though, I think it's worth pointing out, too, you are going to have to address this now because of the hip injury. So this isn't like we were always planning to get a left tackle. It was, he's hurt now. Now we actually really need to address it because we're not going to get a fill-in for halfway through the season. You might as well just go all in on a new left tackle at this point.
This goes back also to, like, the John Allen discussion. Like, could you, if he was disgruntled, which I don't get the sense that he is any longer, but like if he was and you wanted to move on because there's significant cap savings to do so because he wants to, whatever. Well, you are just making another hole because there isn't anybody else behind him that you can look at and go, I think we could get something close to the production that John gives you. There's nobody on the roster that looks that way because Mathis has not turned into this.
Yep.
Same thing goes here for Leno, who's not playing at the caliber of someone like John Allen. When John Allen's at his best, he's one of the best at his position. Leno's not that in general. He was a mid-tier tackle to start with, and they were hoping good enough. Now he's got health issues, and he's up against the cap, and he's older, and it's the right thing to do, but there's nobody in the pipeline to replace him, which means you have to do something about that.
That's right, yeah.
So add it to the list of things that they're going to have to deal with, whether it's free agency or the draft, that are needs. Like when they say we're not going to go buck wild and just spend a ton of money, I believe them, and I don't think they're just going to spend bad money to fill roster spots. But there are certain spots that they have to do something about, and that's a premier position. So let's see what Adam Peters does here. Do they go into free agency and throw a lot of money at a veteran? Because that position is not a cheap position. I know Ron did it, but you saw the results of doing it cheaply on the offensive line. They're going to have to spend some money to do it, or they could trade down
Sure.
It opens that up now.
Sure.
If Caleb is indeed off the board and that's the guy that they hoped and dreamed they would get, they could go, all right, phones are open. Let's see what kind of things we get. And then if they fall to, say, I don't know, Atlanta doesn't get Fields and they want to get one of these quarterbacks, you could fall to 8 and be pretty assured that you're going to get a top-tier left tackle prospect at that position, plus 2 first-round picks. You can decide what to do with it. I'm more inclined to believe that they're going to take a quarterback at 2 or try to get to 1. And then they're going to deal with tackle in another way. So could that be a high second-round pick, one of those 2 second-round picks? Sure. Could it be those 2 second-round picks being packaged to move back in the first round to get them? Yes, right. Definitely. Or they'll play their hand in free agency if they go and spend.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So that's what's going to happen here.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be shocked if they went either way. I still don't think they'd trade down. I just think they would.
I
They'd
don't
have to
think
be blown
so
away.
either.
They had to be absolutely blown away by somebody.
I don't think Josh Harris was in the meetings to talk about trading down and get the guy from Penn State as a tackle. Right. I don't think so. I think we're all settled in that it's going to be a quarterback, and I would be surprised if it's not. If they do get overwhelmed with a trade offer, though, I don't know how they don't at least listen to it.
Sure, of course. No,
I think you have to.
That's Adam Peters' job is to listen to those trades.
Yeah. So that's that. All right. It was quarterback day at the Combine. Caleb Williams did speak to the media and did a bunch of different interviews. So you want to play a couple of his bites here? Let's start with him. He was asked specifically about playing. He's been very diplomatic. He got coached up on what to say for sure. And he was asked specifically about playing in Washington. Have you found that bite?
Yep.
Okay. Here's Caleb Williams being asked specifically about that one today.
Repeat. Yeah. It's like I've said before, it's familiar. It's hometown, as everybody knows. And, it'd be really cool to be back there and experience that. The meeting went really well, being around those, everybody was in the room, so being around everybody, just getting the taste of, how they are, who they are, because like you said, everything's new there.
Okay. So again, I'll reiterate, he's been very diplomatic. When he was asked about the Bears, he did not say, I'm dying to go play in Chicago. He said the same thing. It'd be really cool to be the number 1 pick. Here's his message, okay? And I've heard a lot of interviews with him. I saw him do some one-on-ones with a couple people, and then I saw this media scrum, and he's wisely not showing his hand of where he wants to go.
Of course.
Clearly he wants to go somewhere, but he's at least publicly putting out there, and this is what his message was. I want to be the number 1 pick.
Yes. Yeah.
That was his message. Mm-hmm. In fact, he went so far as to say, I expect to be it. I've dreamt of being it. Mm-hmm. And then he even said this one line that really caught me. He goes, it's really cool to be here because you're one of the 1%. He goes, but I want to be one of the 1% of the 1%.
Yeah.
I want to be Mahomes,
right.
Is what he's basically saying. And so he's trying to put out there, if you take me, I am going to put my heart and soul into becoming a great for you. That's my sole goal, and that's why you should take me at number 1, whoever you are that decides to take me at number 1. So he's not closing the door on anybody wisely. He's not saying I won't go here, I won't go there. Listen, I think it's good that he at least said, because, the whole hometown thing matters. I think we know this. For him to say, I'm okay with it.
Right.
Whether he wants to do it or not is at least, because he could use a caveat of, that would be tough. Of all the places, that would be tough.
Yep.
But he didn't do that. So I'm going to take him at his word. He's open to it. He just wants to go number 1. That's it, period. That's what he wants to happen. The Bears will decide whether that's the case or not, whether they trade it or take him. But that's what he wants. And that was his message today. There is no plan B for me.
That's right.
I want to be number 1.
Yeah,
and I actually don't care who picks me number 1. I want to be number 1.
Yeah, that's fine. And we've heard that from his family, too. That, his dad was saying that he wanted to be the first pick in the draft years ago, essentially.
I think he's going to be.
Yeah.
There is a lot of the draft analysts, and the ones that I trust and like, that are really painting a picture that Jayden Daniels could be the number 1 pick because they just believe by the film and his trajectory and obviously the skill set running-wise specifically, because he adds a dimension that's different, that he could, should, would, whatever. I have such a hard time buying the Bears going in that direction. I think he feels too much like Fields. Like the skill set is just so similar that I think if they take him, I think a lot of their fans will rightly say, why didn't we just keep Justin?
Yeah, right.
If you take Caleb, you are painting this picture of he's a very special, unique, different talent, and that's why we're doing this. And that's why I think that's what's going to happen. Publicly, he's saying all the right things. He is not, as he said, I'm not trying to thrust an agenda on anybody.
Yeah, right.
I'm not trying to say I won't go anywhere. I respect that the Bears get to make the final decision. I did like that one caveat line of, no matter how I feel about it, I'm going to be excited because he wants to be the number one pick. He feels like that's the most important thing. At least that's what he's saying publicly, no matter who it is.
Yep.
So if that is, face value, the truth, and that is exactly what he wants and doesn't want a direct to go anywhere else, I can't imagine the Bears pass him up. I can't see why they would. So I think his dream's going to come true. It's just not going to be here.
Yeah, right.
Whether that's his dream or not to play here.
And the Bears know that they basically can't draft anyone but him. Or else that fan base is going to react.
Can't take McCarthy. Get to him in a bit. But you can't take him. Daniels, they could go full Charlie Casserly and just go, look, we've just decided you got to trust us. We think he's the better prospect, and thus we're taking him.
Fan base would riot. Chicago sports radio would be all time for the next 2 days.
It would be really interesting to hear. Then we'd have to eavesdrop that one, because if they pull a surprise and go, if they want him, they're going to try to get us to trade.
Yeah,
and
of course.
If Peter susses out that they're not going to take Caleb Williams, why would we trade with them? Right,
exactly.
And if they want Jayden Daniels, they have to take him at 1. Because dropping down gives them no recourse to do anything different than that. The only thing they could do is try to scare us into, well, we'll just trade it to somebody else who will take Williams. But then we say back to them, you're also not getting Jayden Daniels,
that's
right?
Yeah,
we
exactly.
still hold the keys to that. So that's where we are. And I think it's more behind the scenes, what is he and his people saying to Chicago? Is he really truthfully, as long as he's the number one pick, happy?
Yeah.
Or is he behind closed doors saying, I really want to be the number one pick, but I kind of want to be somewhere? It was a hard thing to say to an NFL team, especially a landmark one like that. But is he saying that? And I don't get the sense that he is, or at least his PR people have coached him up not to even hint anything like that is going on right
Yeah, exactly.
now.
Yeah, of course not.
So I don't think we're going to get him.
Sounds right.
I've
come to terms with that for a while.
Okay. So now to Jayden Daniels. He spoke to the media today, too, and he was also asked, because he met with the Washington contingent. Of course, he's being asked about everybody. He lit up when Atlanta was brought up, by the way. He was one of them that lit up at that idea.
Sure.
But he realizes that, he's probably not going to fall that far. They'd have to trade up to get him. So he was asked about Washington, and here was Jayden Daniels on that.
It was just how cool the whole staff was. Obviously, Dan Quinn, Cliff Kingsbury, all those type of guys. Just be able to sit in there and really just get to know people. You can see them on TV, see everybody coaching behind the scenes, so be able to go in there and just have a conversation with them. That's the coolest part for me.
Okay, so he also, diplomatic, said the right things, wants to go high. Did also say today, it doesn't matter to him like it does to Caleb to be number one. He's not putting that out. Then I think he probably knows it's not going to happen, so he might as well not, But he said that. He goes, it doesn't matter to him. I think he knows he's going to be a top 5 pick, probably number 2 to somebody, whether it's us or somebody else.
Right.
I think he knows that. But so he's not putting that message out there. And he also very diplomatically was just like, I'm happy to go anywhere. I just want to go high and I want to go somewhere that wants me.
Yeah, and I think he probably knows the reality here. The worst he's getting picked is 3, right? I mean,
the worst.
I think he's probably come to terms with that at this point.
I would think the Patriots are going to jump at the chance to draft him if he's available to them. I think the question will be for the Patriots is, do they take Drake Maye if that's the option, or do they trade down and out of it to somebody else who might want Drake Maye in the hopes of either getting McCarthy, because Robert Kraft has a thing for Michigan quarterbacks, or they don't like Maye enough to take the pick there and they want to take the haul because somebody is going to is this going to go 1, 2, 3 Williams, Daniels, Maye? Like that's what it reads like is going to happen. But you got to be in love with your guy.
Right.
I've said this all along. Like, I want Caleb Williams because he's the one I want. If we can't get him because the Bears are unwilling, then, oh well, we'll move on and make a decision. But for the Patriots, they've got to sit there and look at it. We want either Daniels or Williams, and they can't get either one of them. They have to make that choice.
Right. The other, I mean, that'd be the most Patriots thing ever if Belichick leaves and they trade out and they trade down.
Trade out.
Because that's all Belichick ever did was trade down, recoup picks, get a million third and fourth, fifth round picks and try to fill out the roster. I think they're probably going to try to make a statement of like, Bill's gone, we're going to get our guy here. That's my thought process.
Is their guy Maye?
Right.
Because that's the guy that Atlanta or whoever's going to call up for and try to get. And if they don't love him, well, then they've got to make the choice because they're going to be the ones getting phone calls for probably pretty good deals to move up and do it. So we'll have to see what they do. So not much happened. They were both of these players, and Maye, you'll hear Maye in a second. I'll play him after the break. But like they said the right things. Other than Williams made it very clear that his hopes will be dashed if he's not the number one pick.
Sure. Right.
No one, I mean, every interview I've seen with him, every person who's like an insider, Florio, Pelissero, Rappaport, all of them, when they actually sat and talked to him, they talk to him like it's presumed.
Yeah.
Like they don't even pretend like it's going to go a different direction. Some of the scouts and analysts are kind of putting out there, if you're asking me my honest opinion, I would tell you that it's pretty close between Daniels and Williams, and I might, if I were charged with making the decision, go the direction you don't think because I think they're better, and that's a subjective thing. So there is a little bit of that going on, but every interview I see with Caleb Williams, it's presumed.
Yeah. Right.
Just whether it's the Bears or not the Bears, it's presumed that he will be. So, and then he, just kind of laughs it off, but like he's like, that's what I want.
Of course, yeah.
And so, that would be a fun, if he fell to us at 2, like we didn't even have to trade and got him. It'd be a nice chip on his shoulder, too, to come here and go, oh, someone passed me up. Because it seems to me he's got a little of that Jordan in him where he goes, anything that is the number 2 overall pick, anything that he perceives as any slight of him whatsoever, he seems like the type of person that wants to use a little bit. And he's just like, my heart said I'm going number 1. If that's Washington, great. If it isn't, fine. I just want to go number 1. I want to say that.
Right. Exactly.
All right. You'll hear from Drake Maye and your guy JJ next. Bram Washington Show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital. All right. Let's continue quarterback day at the Combine. 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 I don't know why they do that one on Friday. That's an interesting time to do that one. That's the one everybody's interested in.
So you're doing this.
Huh?
So you're doing this.
I guess.
They take over a Friday.
That's true. The NFL knows what they're doing.
Don't ever doubt the NFL. The NFL is the only league that does all of this right.
I guess. That's true. Like I said, like they got the calendar. They own the calendar now. There's
Correct.
very few dead periods.
Yes.
It really so after the Combine's over, free agency tags are going to happen and the free agency is going to start.
Yeah.
And then you're only going to be a few weeks away from the draft, Mel time.
Right.
And then once the draft's over, OTAs begin.
Correct.
And then you have a dead period in from, I don't know,
the
late
whole month,
May.
Most of July too is
July.
dead.
Well, everybody's
until training
gone.
camp,
Everybody goes away for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Maybe not Dan Quinn. Seems like he likes to be in the office.
Yeah.
But most everybody goes to Cabo or something for like a month.
Correct. Yeah, everyone shuts it down.
That's when everybody shuts it down. All right. So we heard from Caleb Williams. You heard from Jayden Daniels. Now Drake Maye, who, listen, ask any of the scout people. You'll get varying opinions. Merrill Hodge thinks he should never be drafted at all. Others are saying might be the first pick. Others are saying, I don't know how Washington turns him down.
Right.
Does New England want him? You've heard Atlanta, if they don't get Fields, would probably try to move up and try to get him. So there's been a varying, degrees of thoughts on him. Here was him today. This was about Washington too, right? I think he was asked about
Sam Howell. Yeah.
Oh, right. So he's, as we know, buddy with Sam Howell. So they asked him, ain't that gonna be weird?
Sam has been a mentor to me in college, and it's one of those things where there's a lot bigger problems out there in the world than being one of your best friends in the quarterback room. So I think it's not awkward for us, and it's just business.
Not awkward. He also recently said not ideal.
That's right.
Which I thought was a better way to put it because it was my understanding, and I'll just tell you what I've heard about this. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
And everybody understands this. It's just these are people. Okay.
Yeah.
They're not, and they're friends, like for real friends. And him backing up this guy is not going to go particularly well. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of under the impression that if they do go in this direction and there is an actual market for like a real draft pick to give for Sam Howell, that they are probably better served finding a veteran quarterback, Jacoby Brissett, whoever, to come in and work with the young quarterback and try to groom him along. And Sam just hasn't been around long enough, I think, for that. But if they don't get a real offer and they take Jayden Daniels, I think Sam's a very good high-end backup, and I am in no rush to trade him.
That's right.
To anybody.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
If they take Drake Maye, though, I think it's just too awkward.
Sure.
Honestly, I just think it's too awkward. I don't think that's what they're going to do, but who knows? Like at this point, I don't really have a really good guess here of the three.
As I said,
other than I think if Caleb's there, they'll take him, but I just don't think he will be. So outside of that being the case, of the other two, I think they'll go Daniels, but I don't know that for sure at this point.
As I said, you have to actually factor in slightly that you not only would have to get a starting quarterback, you would then need a backup too. Like
Correct.
That's a factor. You have to fill two holes essentially.
You do. I think if you get somehow a third round pick or higher than that,
right.
I think you got it. That's a real offer. And then at that point, I think especially if it's Drake Maye, you've got to move on. And I think you got to get a veteran quarterback anyway. And I would argue that even if you get Jayden Daniels, you should probably get a veteran quarterback in the room.
Sure.
A non-threatening veteran quarterback that can come in and hopefully be the way Jacoby was. Jacoby was great last year.
Right.
Like I think they kind of sold him a bill of goods of what he was going to really compete for. And I think by the end, he was kind of, vocalizing that like maybe I, could have had a real better shot. But I think he knew what the score was. I mean, Ron at this time last year was telling everybody who would listen that Sam Howell's going to get, as he put it, the first opportunity. But we all knew what that meant. And his history was when he named a starter, it just was it. And even when he said there'd be a competition, there never really was with any of them.
Yep.
It happened the first year. I remember sitting there watching Haskins going, if they give Alex Smith a real shot, he'd win the job, but they're just not giving it to him. When Wentz came in and he's airmailing passes and everyone's freaking out at Scott over the whole thing, it's like, I know what you did and I know why you brought him in, but for crying out loud, like we all can see what's going on here. And if it was a real competition, you might start Heineke. I mean, if it was a real one. And then last year, same thing. Like they brought in Brissett, and the good news for Hal and Rivera was Brissett did nothing to show that he should definitively be the starter. He never did. In the spring or summer, it was never obvious that that's what happened. And in the preseason, remember, greatest preseason game of all time, the Ravens and the Commanders, Hal was good. And they named him the starter before that. And I went, that's a very dangerous thing to do. You don't have to do this. They felt it necessary to do it. And if he flops on this one time they're on national TV with Buck and Aikman calling it, there's going to be a lot of egg on their face that they're going to have to make a weird decision about it. They got lucky. He didn't. He actually looked really good, and they won, and he played well, and so all's well that ended well, and they went into the season with him. And frankly, I'll keep reiterating what I said about him. I'm not down on him. I think he was in a weird situation in an offense that wasn't really working, that wasn't really, I think, built for him. They put a lot on his shoulders as an inexperienced player. They threw the ball way, 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 way too much, and I think the hits caught up to him. And a refresh, reboot, if you tell me in 5 years the guy's a good starting quarterback of like a Cousins variety, I will not be surprised by that. I just don't think it's going to, obviously, I just don't think it's going to happen here anymore.
How dare you gloss over Taylor Heineke playing better than Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Oh, that's right. Same thing.
You forgot one.
They
were wrong every single year.
And I was like, that year, I was like, what was it? Well, he got hurt. He got hurt. But same thing. In the spring and summer, it was not obvious that he should be the starter.
Right.
It was not obvious. Yes. And the weirdest part about the Fitzpatrick one was it wasn't like they spent a lot of money or gave up draft capital. They only paid him like $10 million. They paid him same thing percentage. So they didn't have to give him the job. The Wentz one, they kind of had to because they'd given up so much for him and were paying him so much that it was like if you benched him before he'd ever started, it would be like, well, why'd you trade for him?
Well, even Heineke even said, I know his salary. He even said it out loud.
I know my salary and I know his salary. And they gave up two picks for him.
It's almost like Ron couldn't, admit he was wrong every single time.
Yeah. Well, he would. It was just too late.
Well, yes, it's part of not admitting you're wrong.
It was just too late.
It's called taking responsibility.
I was thinking about this too, because when everything came up yesterday on the Josh Harris is in the room and everybody's freaking out about there's too many chefs in the kitchen and that's very Snyder-ish and just remember it wasn't that long ago that everything that was being done here was being done in a very small vacuum.
That's right. Yep.
And those decisions were not going very well.
Yep.
And then this one seems way more open to collaboration. So let's see how the decisions go here.
Yep, right.
So let's see how they play out. All right, so that's Drake Maye. Says it won't be awkward, but admitted it's not ideal.
Right. Exactly.
Like Hal will tell you the same thing. He'd probably like, maybe me and my best friend who I'd be sitting behind and maybe outperforming in camp because I've been a pro quarterback for 2 years, probably won't look great.
Right.
So maybe we shouldn't do that.
Well, the other part of this, too, is what has been Dan Quinn and Adam Peters' thing that they've been in lockstep with each other is they seemingly care about the person behind the name.
Yeah.
They know exactly what they have to do if they draft Maye because they've done nothing.
Of course.
They've done nothing but basically say they want to have the right people here with the right attitude. Well, you could be kind of going back on that if you drafted Maye and decided to somehow make it work between the two of them. So
yes.
I don't see it happening.
So, and if you go back to the Ralph Facciano piece, which I believe that the Jets would have a sincere interest. They need a backup quarterback. They need a cheap alternative for Rodgers. They learned the hard way last year that didn't go very well. And Rodgers, every year is a new year with him. You never know. He might just retire. He may not. You don't know.
Sure.
And they need a backup, and Hal can play. I believe it. I think he can play. They might give up a semi-premium, a third-round pick or something like that for him. And at that point, then I think it's the right thing to do to give him the fresh start, let him go somewhere, be the backup there, and then eventually he will be the starter probably for them. Probably sooner rather than later, a year or two. I mean, Rodgers is off Achilles. There's no guarantee he's going to come back. And I know he's telling you he would put a balm on it. He's fine. But you don't know. At his age and now off of that injury, you don't know what he's going to look like when he plays. So I think that might be the right thing to do. If they take Daniels, then I'll hear out a argument if they don't get the right kind of deal that you just keep Hal. And then secondarily, obviously the next couple of weeks, once when Fields is traded, and then where Cousins signs and where Garoppolo signs, who's the one that's left without a quarterback?
Yeah.
And, then we'll go back to the Patriots again. Let's just say Caleb Williams and Jayden Daniels go 1-2. That's what they wanted, one of those two quarterbacks. Do they love Drake May or not? If they don't, would they trade down? And that goes back to the Vacchiano piece where it's like maybe they would trade a pick and take a flyer on Hal, collect all of this draft capital because they're going to trade out of 3 and take a swing with him as the quarterback there and go get their left tackle and 3 other first-round picks or whatever and start to build their roster back up because they don't love Drake May. So, I think that report is extremely accurate. The question would be, what would they actually give up for him? I don't know what that is.
The Patriots also wouldn't shock me if they were kind of going like Ron year 2-ish, where they're going, we only need to score 7 to 10 points more a game, and our record is flipped essentially. Their defense.
They have good defensive players.
Their defense was really good last year.
Granted, Belichick's not their coach anymore.
Sure, but
so and
clearly they trusted Mayo though. So
yes,
I'm just the foundation is there that maybe they think they can compete faster than everyone else thinks they can because they do just need to score a little bit more.
They could take Marvin Harrison,
right? Yeah,
and then go, we're going to give up a third-round pick and bring in Sam Howell. They could do that.
Yep.
He might be the best player on the board.
Yep.
So, they might do something like that. All right, then there's JJ. Oh, boy.
Not my
JJ.
guy. Not my guy.
JJ, this started, everyone laughed at Harbaugh when he did that interview and said, I think he's the best quarterback. Everyone laughed at him. And we're like, ha, 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 ha.
Now,
no one thinks he's going to be.
Well,
no one thinks he's going to be the first or the second one. But again, if you listen to the draft analyst people that you trust, Daniel Jeremiah, Greg Cosell, some of these other ones that just study this film and that's all they do, they're all saying, look, I'm not picking him over Caleb Williams. I'm not picking because Jayden Daniels has special traits. He's not that, obviously. But if you really watch the tape, if you put him in the offense that actually threw the ball a little bit more, well, you might have something there with him, and he might be the steal of the draft as the 3rd or 4th or 5th quarterback taken. And it's rare, but it's happened. Not that I think he's going to be Mahomes, but Mahomes was not the first quarterback taken, right? You just don't know. So here he was today talking to the media.
What stood out about your game with Washington? I would say just the overall energy. It was my first one, so I was super nervous, I'm not gonna lie, and sweating a little bit. And Coach Quinn was just awesome. I got to talk to Mr. Peters right before the meeting, and just a great vibe, very welcoming, and going through the clips and everything. And Coach Cliff Kingsbury was just like, hey, if you get a matchup out here and you really like it, could you just switch it to go on the outside? And I was telling him I wish, just little stuff like that. And it was just great to meet them, great to talk ball with them, and I had a lot of fun doing it.
So I thought that was a very interesting thing that he said because all the players talk about how the coaches basically said like, "What would you do here?" That was like part of the interviews. What would you do here?
Exactly.
Like, just get a quick sense of like, all right, how are you processing how we would do things? And when he said, "Would you switch this?" Whatever he meant, and he goes, "I wish I could." He's insinuating in Michigan, in our offense, we weren't doing things like that.
Sure.
But if you give me the chance to. I can show you that I not only know to do it, but I can do it.
Yeah.
That's what the scouts are saying about him, that this is a little bit of Brady. Brady was in a system, and I couldn't move. That was part of it. But was in a system that didn't profile his processing ability, which turned out to be that's his super strength.
Yeah.
He's incredible at dictating what's going to happen, knowing where the ball's going to go, getting rid of it quick, and making pinpoint accurate and smart decisions with the ball. And what he's hinting at is whatever they do at Michigan, I know that was a long time ago with different coaches, but he's hinting the same thing was going on there, that's just not what we did. Yeah. We did our system. And then he pointed out later in the media session, he goes, what I'm selling to teams is we won a lot. Remember that part. Like, I understand that no one thinks it was me that did it. And I understand that it was a team thing. Like, we had a really good defense. We had a really good run game, and I get it. But I was a part of that. Don't lose sight of it. I was the quarterback of the national championship team. And all the scouts are similarly saying the same things here, that, like, if you give him the chance to do it, that he can. So I'll be very interested to see where he goes. It's not one or two. There's no way you're taking him over Williams or Daniels because the skill set and ceiling is so high on those two. But could he go above Maye? I don't know, actually. If you just listen to what everyone is saying, I don't know. So I don't think he's coming here. Right. I think we would trade down if that's what we're seriously thinking of doing. But I'm starting to buy into it because I'll listen to these people that study this closer. They're all suggesting what Harbaugh said. He's way better than you think coming into this draft.
Yeah, I mean, look, sometimes I also think you don't overthink this either. He was the quarterback for Michigan who won a national championship, and then there's Drake Maye who was quarterback at UNC. Like, sometimes you just don't overthink if they're close. Why one went to one school and one went to the other school.
That's right.
The other thing here...
Now, but I mean, to be fair... Pat Mahomes went to Texas Tech.
Of course. Right.
Ben Roethlisberger went to Miami, Ohio.
Sure.
There's plenty of... Joe Flacco went to Delaware. There's plenty of good quarterbacks that did not go to premier programs.
But I'm saying the ones that are on the same tier, you're going to lean towards the one that went to the bigger school, did more. At least I would.
I agree.
That's what I'm saying. But
they won big leverage games without their coach a number of times. Drake Maye lost to bad teams this past year. And again, like, that's not all his fault, but tell the whole story. Tell the whole story.
There's one thing here too that I think is worth mentioning because all the talk for it with Richardson last year was like the ceiling is we're seeing is really high, but you're gonna have to like develop them. Like it's gonna take some time here.
He's a crazy athlete.
My favorite clip during the day of the Super Bowl.
I remember last year with Richardson. Sorry, I'll let you get back to your thought for a second. I always watch a film on him because he was rising up really fast, and I'm like, this guy's a crazy athlete. But he can't hit the broadside of a barn.
Yeah, right.
And so he may turn into Josh Allen, and he may never be accurate, ever. And if he's never accurate, and it's all legs, he'll never survive. And in his rookie season, he got hurt.
Yeah, right, yeah. Exactly. He did look better than everyone anticipated that this first couple games.
Yes.
I mean, he won the job,
but he got hurt.
Yeah. But the clip that I loved pregame in the Super Bowl, it was the morning of, so not a lot of people saw it. But Teddy Bruschi was asked about Brady versus Mahomes because Mahomes was 6 years in, and Bruschi was like, it's no question Mahomes is so much better because he was good from the get-go. He's like, people don't realize it took Brady 6 years to be as good as he was because he needed to actually develop the defense.
As good as he was, but they won early with him anyway.
Right. But he was saying the defense was so good.
People thought it was the craziest thing ever when he took over because Bledsoe got hurt and then he just didn't lose.
Right. But basically what Bruschi was getting at was like this defense
was so good.
Good. And he even prefaced it by saying, I don't want to use the word carried because that's not fair, but was like, we were so good on our side of the ball we could kind of get through anything because he was good enough. And then he was like, after
he wasn't a liability, though.
Yes,
that's
correct.
The important part.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd say same thing about Purdy right now. He's not a liability
Yes,
for them.
Exactly.
You may not love him, and you may not think he's great, and you may not think he's a high ceiling, but he doesn't get them in trouble very. He's had one bad game.
But what I'm getting at here is, if the comparison to JJ is to Brady in the decision making, are you prepared to let him develop for 4 to 6 years? Because that's what it sounds like. So whoever takes him, I would hope they'd be patient with him and not just be done with him after 3.
He is turned into, to me, the most intriguing player in the draft. Because if you listen to some of these people, they're making it sound like he could be the 3rd quarterback taken now.
Right.
All right, we'll take a quick break. Bram watches show ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. No court storming allowed if UVA beats Duke. We've learned that. They play them this weekend. 5:30 pregame, 6 p.m. tip. That's tomorrow, correct?
Yeah, at Duke. So
at Duke.
No court storming.
Oh, well, they
there.
court storm if they beat Virginia.
Don't think so.
That?
Don't think they'll be doing that.
Yeah, okay. What did you get from the Wizards? What's their promotion?
Spot with this. All right, hold on. I'm no opinions being inserted here. I got a promotional email from the Wizards. They said these
are their talking points for you to tell me about their promotion.
This is just an email they sent to all fans.
Oh, okay.
They said, I'm just gonna read this verbatim, and stop me when you want to stop me. It's time for a City Edition scavenger hunt with the Wizards. You've seen the boundary stones represented on the court this season. Now it's your turn to see them up close. That's important. Visit Capital One Arena and 3 boundary stones in Virginia. Take a picture of each one and upload it to our site to be entered to win. 4 lucky winners will receive tickets to a game and win a player-signed City Edition jersey.
You want to know what this proves? 2 things. 1, boy, they're all in on Virginia.
Oh, my God.
Plus, would they know if I took the picture of the boundary stone that's literally right around
there
the corner?
Across the street, yeah.
Would they know that I'm not in Virginia, that I did it?
Probably.
What if I cropped the picture in a way that's hard to tell where I am? I just take a picture with it. It's obviously a boundary stone, but you don't know where I am. 2, this also proves my point. They're setting up a scavenger hunt because nobody knows these things. Nobody knows where they are.
I thought we were past this.
No, we're not. Not when you just admit you have to go on a scavenger hunt to figure out where something is that you thought everybody knew what it was. I don't even know what it is. If you said, I need you to go on a scavenger hunt to Ben's Chili Bowl, it'll take me 3 seconds to get down there because I know where it is and I've heard of it.
I'm actually just more... Guys, why does it have to be only in Virginia? They're in all 3 jurisdictions.
Do you like those jerseys, by the way?
I do, actually.
You do?
I do. I think the color scheme really grew on me. I actually am a fan. Yeah.
It doesn't look like them. I don't like them. It doesn't look like them.
There is no winning tradition to fall back on. What do they actually look like?
I don't know. I like the red, white, and blue on them. That's what I like. I like the red, white, and blue on them.
But it's not even the right
I wish they never changed their jerseys. Go back to those ones in the 80s. They're classic looking.
That's what I'm getting at. It's not even the right red, white, and blue. It's not the brighter version.
Bullets.
It's the wrong version.
Right. Yeah, right. They never went back because they can't write bullets on it.
No, of course, but they could make a brighter red and a brighter blue, more of a royal blue than navy. So no, that's
honestly, Ted's gotten a lot of bad press. Go back to bullets. There'd be a lot of people in the fan base would be like, I like that.
Well,
I like that.
I mean, yeah, people joked about that. It was like, you might as well go full
Might as
rebrand
well.
while you're at it. But
the Virginia Bullets.
But guys.
The Potomac Yards Bullets.
Potomac Yards Bullets.
Old Town Bullets.
Arlington Bullets.
The Arlington Bullets.
That doesn't exist.
Old Town Bullets. I still think they should go Old Town Squires. That's a great name.
Nova Bullets.
Old Town on the jersey? Old Town? Oh, my God. Come on.
You're going to scooch by Nova Bullets?
Nova Bullets?
That is a great ring to it. Like Nova, like Supernova.
Oh, Nova Bullets. I like that.
Supernova Bullets, hon.
Yeah. And I wanted to say hun on it, too.
Yeah.
That's good. Meantime, they lost again last night. Steinberg just tweeted out that the Chiefs won more games in the month of February than the Wizards did, which... I saw another tweet. I don't remember who it was, but somebody who covers basketball. He goes, they've lost 13 straight now.
Yeah, right.
There was a record set this year by the Pistons, 28 straight, right? Remember that?
Right, exactly.
We have a worse record than them. They have the longest losing streak in the history of the NBA. We have a worse record than them right now.
Yes.
And the best part of this is if they get to 28, the 28th loss would be to the Pistons, which if that happens, I might have to go to that game because I think the Pistons will hear about it and they'll be like, we have to make them lose that game.
Let's see.
I mean, the way that they're playing, to be honest, I watched a lot of them last night and I've watched them recently. They're playing much better. They're just not a very good team, but they're playing much better. Poole is playing way better since he's been coming off the bench. Denny's had a better year. Like, I don't assume that they're going to lose 15 more in a row, but if it does happen, that's a showdown of all showdowns if they play the Pistons, who broke an NBA record for losses and could force them to match that record that night.
It's here, so.
Oh, I'm going. But only if it's on the line.
I think they'll win in one of their next 3.
Yeah, the schedule.
Jazz at the Jazz.
That's a loss at the Jazz.
Host the Magic, and they host the Hornets.
The Hornets
probably will win. I think they'll win one of the 2.
Probably.
At home, yeah.
Probably.
Probably,
Maybe.
but we don't know.
We don't know. We got to get that guy who calls the Hornets games. From Bethesda.
Yeah, from
Remember
Bethesda.
that guy? That guy. Does
Yeah.
he know what the boundary stones are? I wonder if he knows.
Why are you on the boundary stone thing now? This is
I want them.
this is from 3 months ago.
They got the dumb jerseys to the Buzz City thing.
Oh, those
they
are
should
terrible.
wear Buzz City versus boundary stones.
The Hornets have the worst one, and I don't even want to talk about it on the air. There was an abbreviation to their city that they wore in the front, and everybody was like, oh, God, that's a terrible one. But, yeah.
So anyway, but I did watch them last night. You were on it. They, off the back-to-back for the Lakers, where they had to have a crazy comeback, and LeBron had a crazy fourth quarter, and they beat the Clippers.
Yeah.
You know, it is typical. There's a letdown. But I'm like, Wizards, they probably thought it was a bye-week game for them, too, and they ended up in a game with those guys.
Well,
and honestly, like, Poole took a ridiculous shot at the end of overtime. Otherwise, they might still be playing right now the way it was going last night.
It was also not only that, you had Kuzma, who's playing in his former arena. So that I think that matters with NBA players when they played a place for a long time. Then you have Poole, who's also from the West Coast or played on the West Coast, too. You have 2 players that are 2 scorers for you that had good nights. And so, yeah, I was all over that one.
Yeah. So they lost, but, they did it in fine fashion.
9-50.
9-50.
They are the worst in the league, though.
Again, a team that lost a record-setting losing streak this year has a better record than them right now. That's hard to do. That is hard to do. One other LA story that I was amused by today. The Dodgers admitted they were, quote, surprised when they found out Shohei Ohtani is married.
Oh, yeah. Did you see his announcement?
They didn't
Yeah.
They didn't know.
Uh-huh.
The whole team
Yep.
didn't know that he got married.
Yes.
Which is, did they have to know? No. But it's weird.
Yeah, but you would think
The guy they gave $700 million to, nobody in the building knew he got married. That's weird.
I would actually. So he's a new teammate. So you are just trying to get to know
I'm
the
not saying
guy.
they had to be invited.
100%. No. But I think you do have to ask the Angels. Like, I hope the Angels beat today is asking Mike Trout, like, did you know Shohei was even dating anybody?
Yeah.
And if Mike Trout says, I had no idea, then I think it's more of a shocker.
That's weird.
But because it's a new team, I was kind of like, you get around to that, but like, I don't know. It's a brand new team, new organization. You're just trying to get your routine, get to know each other normally. And
the other one I want to ask, just knowing women,
yeah.
Nobody knew about this.
Right.
Was the wedding like a small courthouse wedding, like something like that? And if so, how did the $700 million man get his wife to agree to do a low-rent wedding that nobody knew about and didn't throw something at Riviera? Like, how did that happen?
I'm going to guess he probably he obviously got married in Japan. So
I guess.
He probably just went to a suburb city in Japan. It's very secluded out there.
Do they not do like big American weddings like we do? I'd have to look this up. Is that like not a thing out there?
I think they celebrate, but I think like Japanese culture is much more private. So I'm sure
Maybe.
like it was way easier to keep quiet because you don't have like these American paparazzi trying to follow you around or anything. I bet you.
And also like in America, that's what I'm saying. Like if he married some American girl,
right? Oh
like,
yeah.
And he makes $700 million.
Yeah.
That thing's going to be the craziest wedding you've ever seen in your life.
I'm going to guess, too, this woman must not be on social media because someone would have figured it out if she posted a picture with Shohei Ohtani all the time. Like, know, so.
Nobody knew he was even dating, let alone got married. I just thought it was funny that, like, someone who gave him a contract that he signed for $700 million was unaware that the guy was getting married.
Did you see the full
I think you have to invite the owner, don't you? He doesn't have to show up, but how do you not invite the guy who made you generationally wealthy to your wedding?
You don't have to.
I guess.
Did you like the actual quote on it?
No.
I wanted everyone to know I am now married. To someone who is very special to me. 2 people plus 1 dog will grow together. Best part. She's Japanese. I don't think I need to announce the date we got married. She's a typical, ordinary person.
Oh, there you go. Well, I'm sure she loved that description.
She
this
probably
is my
did.
Typical, ordinary person wife.
Well, they probably both know too. It's about to hit another level. Being on the Dodgers, like
maybe that's a thing in Japan. Maybe they just don't do big weddings like that. That could be. Maybe that's a thing.
He probably paid people to be private. That's all. I bet you
Yeah,
that's
I
all it
guess.
was. He's got enough money to do it.
This also, if I'm Major League Baseball, I'm kind of like, boy, we're doing terrible with press. Like, where's the
That's true.
paparazzi?
Yeah, right.
Where's TMZ flying over it? He is the highest paid athlete in sports.
Right.
How does nobody even know this?
I am going to guess TMZ's trying to buy the wedding photos. I mean,
Do they exist? Did they even get a photographer?
yeah, come on.
I don't know.
Had to have.
They're typical ordinary people. I don't know.
Typical ordinary people. That's my favorite description ever.
That's amazing.
He also added this. She said she will go wherever I go. Had absolutely no influence on my decision. So my decision was based on where I want to play baseball.
Which was I stayed in L.A.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
got a ton of money.
And got a ton of money.
And deferred it all.
And deferred it. I'm not going to be taxed on all of it.
I know. That's a whole different thing. This tax shelter thing that he's pulling off. If I'm a legislator in California, I'm not pleased about what's going on
Shohei
here.
is going to be, quote, living, air quotes, in Florida.
Or Japan.
Well, whatever works better for him.
All right, take a quick break. Bram watches the show, ESPN 630 at Sports Capital. I'll get into the next piece of news that I kind of guessed might happen last hour, which is Logan Thomas has also been released by the Commanders today. But first, I just have to point out that Scott Jackson just retweeted this clip from a CBS NBA reporter, Sam Quinn, who clipped together about 35 seconds of preposterous Wizards highlights from last night and put like Benny Hill type music underneath it.
No.
And he wrote, "It took so much Wizards nonsense for the Lakers to steal that game. I say this from a place of love. No team has ever produced such consistently funny highlights. I am in awe of the Wizards." And it's like one of them is Jimmy Davis like bricking a layup. And
Johnny
like,
Davis. But...
Yeah, Jimmy. And all sorts of, you're wrong, it's Jimmy. And all sorts of.
Oh, so I was right originally.
Yeah. At the end of the game, too, in overtime with the Lakers, Poole threw up just a preposterously crazy shot, too. Granted, he played well, but like he threw up just a crazy shot at the end of the game.
Wizards, bruh.
Wizards, bruh. This is full on. This is really Wizards, bruh. Brad thought it was Wizards, bruh. This is really Wizards, bruh.
You know what? We throw the word culture around with the football team quite a bit. I think we need to start throwing it around with them. I mean, what's the culture there, man?
Well, we knew the season was going to be bad. They baselined it was going to be bad. But this is there. I mean, the early part of the season when Wes was still coaching, they were getting boat raced every night. Like that was embarrassing non-competitive.
Right.
They're competitive now.
Yes.
They're just not good enough to win a lot of games. But then there's this. Like there's in every game, there's 5 or 6 clips where you're like, what is that?
Poole's like inbound pass the other night.
He fumbled.
And he's like, "Oh no!" but didn't go for the ball. It was like when Cam Newton fumbled in the Super Bowl and didn't didn't know what to do when the ball was on the ground. It was like, "Go for it, dude! What are you doing?"
It's like every night there's 5 to 10 crazy possessions. You're like, what happened? That wasn't the play. What are you guys doing? They are keeping it interesting. All right, back to Logan Thomas. So he is now the second the Commanders have officially tweeted out that they have released Charles Leno and Logan Thomas. It's going to save them combined about $15 million on their cap or so, somewhere around there. Leno's was around 7 to 8, and Logan's was around 6 to 7. Logan also in his 30s, dealing with a lot of injuries. And I'll say the same thing I said about Leno that I'll say about Logan Thomas. They don't naturally have his replacement on the roster.
Right.
Like John Bates is a very good blocking tight end, but he's not a stretch the field catching tight end. I'm sure he's going to be a carryover. Cole Turner, I don't think developed into what is obviously a starter. We'll have to see what the new staff thinks about him. Armani Rogers was a total find as an undrafted player and unfortunately tore his Achilles back in the spring and missed the entire season. Hopefully he's healthy and he's back, but again, what does the new staff think of him? I actually thought there was some possibilities with him, but we'll have to see what his situation is. And I'm missing somebody. Who am I missing that was playing tight end for them last year? I can't remember who it was now. All of a sudden, I can't remember.
Who did you name again? Who did you name?
Bates. Rogers was out. Cole Turner and
yeah.
Logan.
Logan.
That was basically the ones who played most of the plays. So this is another hole. This screams a draft pick. In the 2nd to 4th round, it screams that they're going to take a young, like, stretch the field type tight end. And again, there are a lot of examples of plug-and-play rookies that come in as starters. Luke Musgrave turned into a tremendous asset for the Packers by the end of the season. Sam Laporta was, if it wasn't for what C.J. Stroud was doing, guys like that, he might have been up for, like, Rookie of the Year type of stuff. Like, he became an important part of what they were doing. the Cowboys dumped Dalton Schultz and drafted 2 tight ends. They were great. Isaiah Likely was a mid-round pick. The Ravens weren't missing a beat without Andrews, who I think is a cut above all of them, but they weren't missing a beat with him. Of course. They also took, I thought this was funny, no one made a big deal of it. They took 2 tight ends in the same round 2 years ago. When they took Likely, and I can't remember who his name is right now, but Likely's been playing a lot. I remember we played them in the preseason. I'm like, that guy's a stud.
Yep.
So there's a lot like that. There is a dearth of that. Like running back and tight end now, there are top tier ones. Brock Bowers is a top tier one. But you can find these guys. Like Bijan Robinson's a top-tier running back, but you can find good running backs in the second round on. Kenneth Walker is a good example of this. Breece Hall is an amazing example of this. Brian Robinson's a very good running back. They got him in the third round. So I'm earmarking draft for tight end. That somewhere in the second to fourth round, they're going to draft somebody, and hopefully he plugs in and is a receiving tight end for them. So they can fill that hole. The left tackle one's different to me. There is no obvious replacement for Charles Leno. And that's one where you can't just get lucky and find one in the third round. You might, but you can't. And we think they're going to use their second overall pick not on a tackle, even though there's an obvious selection there. I don't know why they would do it. They're a trade down if they're going to do that. And I don't think they're going to do that. So 2 high second round picks screams to me, package them and move up back into the first round and potentially take a tackle. Or if you feel like there's a lot of good prospects and you can wait early in the top of the second round, or that's where some of this money's going to get spent. Because now that they got $15 million more in cap relief, they're back up near 90-some million in cap space.
Right.
So if they are going to go swing for the fences on a free agent, it screams a left tackle because that's a position you have to spend a lot of money on.
Yeah.
So that's probably what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that was always they were going to address the offensive line some way in free agency. We just didn't know where.
Well, I think they need a couple of starters.
No, of course.
Maybe 3.
Right.
I like Cosme. I think Cosme's fine. I think he's very athletic, and you got to keep some people. Gates in a second go-around, let's see. We'll have to see. Can Stromberg play? He got hurt in the middle of the season, never really played very much. Let's see what happens there. Left guard is open question for sure, so we'll have to see. Sadiq Charles is a free agent, so we'll have to see if they're going to re-sign him or not, or they'll have to go get a guard, obviously. And right tackle was Wiley, and many people believed he should be a guard. So maybe he plugs back in. But if they do that, who's the right tackle? Cornelius Lucas is a free agent. I don't think he's a 17-game starter. He's been a good swing tackle backup. I don't think he's a 17-game starter. So if they moved Wiley, they need 2 tackles.
That's right. Right.
The offensive line, that's where a lot of work's going to have to be done, I think, especially if you're going to draft a rookie quarterback. I don't. You can't throw him out there with a makeshift offensive line. They're going to have to go spend some money there, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So we'll see what they do. I'm going to have to start going through. Now we need to look at tackles because in free agency, I think they're at the front of the line for whoever the top tier left tackle is.
Right.
Like that's got to be the move because if it isn't, then you're going to get all these guys in the draft.
Right.
Yeah, guard is another one, too. You can get really good guards in the second round.
Yeah,
like
of course.
Really good ones.
Right.
So that's a possibility. 2 high second-round picks gives them options here. I think they could possibly package them, move up, get a tackle. Or if they get a tackle in free agency, one of those top picks could be best guard on the board. That's a possibility.
For sure.
And then second, third, fourth round, I think it screams now you got to go get a young pass-catching tight end. And there's been a lot of those in the draft. So maybe they're seeing it that way.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Let me get to Marvin Harrison, who was supposed to speak today at the draft, as you heard all the quarterbacks talk last hour. He didn't.
Yep.
And then, of course, Twitter does what Twitter does. Everyone freaks out and makes it out to be something it probably isn't. Do we know why he didn't speak to the media? Does anybody know why he didn't speak to the media?
No. But he's also not doing any workouts either.
Yeah.
I don't even think he's doing his pro day.
He also is, in all likelihood, the first player off the board who is not a quarterback.
Sure. Right.
So he probably is in the Caleb Williams camp of, y'all know me.
Right.
What do I need to do here?
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think for people like him, the people at the top of the draft that are clearly going to be at the top of the draft, I think there's only a downside to taking part in some of this stuff. Because, he's a tick slower than I thought he was. He doesn't jump as high as I thought he did. He doesn't squat as much as I thought he could. He doesn't jump as high. Well, it's just a ding. So no, thank you. Go watch my tape against Michigan. It was pretty good.
Right, exactly.
You know what my dad is, right? Don't worry about me.
That. He doesn't have to pull that.
Like,
That's the thing. His
don't
name
worry
could
about
be something else. No one would care.
Don't worry about me. I'm fine. So I don't actually, I think the guys at the top tier of the draft not taking part in this stuff is not a big deal. And I think it's just a sign of things to come. The Combine can help people who need to get noticed. For people like him who don't need to get noticed, why does he need to run a shuffle drill? Like, he doesn't.
Right. Exactly.
He doesn't. But why didn't he talk to the media? I don't know. But I'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe something was going on because everyone just assumes the worst. Like, there's a million replies once that one thing went up. Like, well, I'm not picking him now. Why is that? Because he didn't do a media availability at the combine? You don't even know why he didn't do a media availability. Who cares?
People on Twitter aren't in front offices.
Why does everybody react this way to everything?
Everything. NFL fans are unhinged. This fan base is also
Everybody's unhinged about everything.
Yeah, but this sport in particular, everything, you have to have an opinion about everything. That's what's exhausting about this part of this offseason. Like,
it is exhausting.
I'm already sick of all of it because everyone has to have an opinion about what Caleb Williams had for breakfast this morning.
It was so fun. I mean, this is the second day in a row. We had the Josh Harris one yesterday where the second I saw the tweet, I went, oh, here we go.
Right.
It's going to touch a nerve and people are going to go crazy and they're going to start screaming Snyder's back. And then this one, Marvin Harrison doesn't show up to his media availability. No reason given. There might be a legitimate one.
Right.
Maybe he had a personal issue. Maybe he had to go do something. He couldn't make but you don't know that. Oh, he terrible. I can't draft him now. Sign of things to come. Diva. It's like, come on.
Y'all forget Aaron Hernandez got drafted?
Did you see the quotes about that today?
About Hernandez?
I thought you brought him up because you did.
No, that was just completely because he had red flags abound and still got drafted with a pretty high pick.
So there hasn't gotten a lot of play yet, but there's a Netflix or something series called Dynasty. It's about the Patriots.
Yes, there is. I haven't watched it, but I know of it.
Apparently, an episode, obviously goes into Aaron Hernandez at some point, and there are two massive takeaway quotes from it that are frightening.
Oh no!
One where apparently he told Belichick, "Please trade me to the West Coast. I'm scared for me and my girlfriend or whatever." Okay.
Oh.
And then there's a second one. I haven't seen it. I probably shouldn't cite this because I haven't seen it. But there's one that attributes Bob Kraft after the allegations of what happened, going into the weight room, going up to him man to man to ask him, "Did you do this?" And him saying he didn't to him and said, well, we'll help you and get all the legal things that you need. And then I guess his line was something like, I've never been snookered by somebody like this ever in my life.
Good God.
Yeah, it's not good. That's not a good topic for part of the dynasty, is whatever happened, whatever the real total story was with him, obviously. So anyway, you looking it up right now. It's not good. I know.
There are other quotes that.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. It's not good. But I mean, that topic in this story is not going to be good, no matter what. There's no spin on it. It's terrible. So it's terrible what happened. So
anyway, Aaron, tell me, did you do this? Because if you did, I must have known you had some good reason.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. If you did, you must have had a good reason.
Because if you did, I know you must have had some good reason. I'm going to get you the best defense lawyer we can, and I'll do it at my cost.
Yes.
Mr. Kraft, I didn't do that. I was in Rhode Island.
Yes, which he wasn't. He was there. Obviously, he was there. He's on video.
And yes, he did use the word snookered.
Snookered,
like
yes. Snookered. Oh, man. Woo, daddy.
I'm just going to say there's one by Wes Welker to Brandon Lloyd, former Redskin. Look that quote up when you get a chance.
Brandon Lloyd?
Yeah.
My favorite.
Wes Welker warned Brandon Lloyd about something. And just look it up. I'm not reading it on the air.
Warned him about something?
Yeah, because Brandon Lloyd signed with them after here.
And warned him about what?
I can't. I literally can't.
Don't say it?
Yeah, I can't. Just look it up. Look it up.
If I Google Brandon Lloyd, it's not going to be a pretty quote?
Go on Twitter. Just type in Brandon Lloyd and Wes Welker. It's going to pop right up.
Okay. Isn't Wes Welker coaching right now? Is he in Miami?
He's Miami, yeah.
Oh, no. Well, I'll have to look this up because I don't know what you're talking about.
He was just trying to warn him about something. So
warn him about what? I don't want to know.
Guys, I'm telling you, stop. You got to stop. You got to look it up in the break.
Yeah, sometimes the curtain shouldn't be pulled up that much, actually.
Correct.
The other story I haven't gotten to, because there's been so much going on, but I think is worth delving into for a moment, is this McCole Hardman thing where they're claiming that he gave the game plan of the Jets to the Eagles and the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Of which, if that is true, he needs to be kicked out of the league and suspended.
The funnier part.
You can't. That's Spygate.
The funnier part is
you can't do that.
The funnier part is the Jets beat the Eagles.
That is funny.
That's the funniest part.
That was the one where Hurts played terrible.
Yeah.
And made a million mistakes, and they lost. It was like that was maybe the worst loss by anybody of the season. It probably should have been a sign of, because this is when they were winning.
Right.
Probably should have been a sign of, this isn't good. Like whatever's going. Like everyone was like, they were just off for the day. Right. It was an off day. They made a bunch of mistakes, but there is a lot of people. Like Sauce Gardner is saying it. I guess he did an interview where he admitted to saying in this podcast, like in the middle of the year, he was so frustrated with the Jets that he called the Chiefs and said, "Come get me and get me out of here." Yeah. Which again is, whether he knows this or not, tampering.
Right.
You can't do that. I mean, I'm sure that happens all the time, but like you can't say
it. Right. It depends who he actually contacted. Because if he contacted a player, that doesn't matter. Actually, they're allowed to converse.
But if he contacted Andy Reid or the GM of the team,
exactly right.
Now we got a real problem. But if he actually turned over the game plan of the Jets to the other teams, they got to suspend him for a year.
How do you prove that, though?
I don't know.
Right. So,
but the other players are suggesting he did. Then I saw one. It was the punter of the Jets, which was funny. You always hear the punter say, and he said his line about Hardman was, he goes, "Here's a guy who be wary of disgruntled ex-employees who get beat out by undrafted rookies." Right. And they're embarrassed by the whole thing. Yeah. Because remember, at Hard Knocks, there were like 2 undrafted rookies, and one of them was the guy who returned that punt in the opener against the Bills for a touchdown. Right. And he turned out to be pretty good, and they beat him out. And so the punter is saying this guy was just disgruntled from the start because he didn't have a role anymore.
Hardman also, though, I believe, went on to say that like there was no plan on offense. So when Rodgers went down, that's why everything went to you-know-what, because essentially...
Oh, I believe that.
Right. That he was saying there was no offensive scheme. It was Rodgers is going to do whatever he wants. So, when you take Rodgers out, they had no plan.
Look, I was on this. The reason why Hacks was hired in Denver was to get Aaron Rodgers to go from Green Bay to Denver. At the time, Rodgers was dating the Clay Eater in Boulder, Colorado. He then subsequently broke up with her, spoke to the Stars, and changed his mind. They had Hacks. And then what happened with Hacks? He was terrible.
Right.
Over his skis, right? So they hire him in New York. Why did they do that? They did it because they were getting Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers said he wanted him. Why did he want him? Because he dictates the offense. That guy doesn't.
Right.
Once Aaron Rodgers got hurt, it exposed that there was no structure going on. So I actually believe all of that. And if you watched Hard Knocks, it was the Aaron show. And they made it plain and clear that, like, he runs the show here. The second he got hurt, no kidding, it spiraled on them. There was no structure that was going on there.
Right.
I told you, this guy Saleh, I'm on to him too. I don't know, man. I said it early. When I watched Hard Knocks, I'm like, is that guy a good coach? I don't know if he is, because there clearly is no system going on here.
I think that you can have questions on Saleh, but it's the owner that let Rodgers in, made the trade, and then
empowered him.
Right, and let him bring all of his dudes in, including your boy Hacks.
Right.
And so...
But I was on it with this guy Hacks. The reason why he wanted him in Denver and why he got hired is because he can walk all over him, basically. Right. And he does whatever he wants, and there's no accountability for that. But in most cases, he's an MVP, so what are you going to say to him?
Correct, but I'm still not
So
blaming
then he gets hired in New York. Why? Because Rodgers said he wanted him.
Right.
Because he's going to run the offense. The second he got hurt, everybody was left to their own devices, and nobody knew what to do.
Which is why...
But that's a structure thing. Your structure's messed up.
Right. Well, when the owner's making those moves, what do you want Saleh to do?
The Browns made the playoffs with Flacco off the couch. Minnesota hung in there with 5 different quarterbacks because there's a structure in place.
Right.
Terrible things happen. They lost their quarterbacks. Obviously, things are going to go wrong. The good coaches have something in place to keep you competitive to try. That team totally fell apart.
What was he going to implement? He was powerless.
What do you mean?
Saleh, he was powerless.
The backup quarterback is a 2nd overall pick.
Right, well, he wasn't supposed to play.
He wasn't supposed to play, but he's a 2nd overall pick.
Right. I mean,
it wasn't Josh Dobbs who was signed a week earlier and asked to play.
Oh, I'm still blaming the owner on that one. I'm not blaming as much on Saleh. I'm with you. There's questions, but that's
I don't
Johnson.
blame them for getting him.
That's planes on chains, Johnson.
They hitched their wagon.
He doesn't get enough flame from the league, by the way.
They hitched their wagon to him.
He hitched his wagon to him.
In the biggest way ever.
Yes.
Remember, Rodgers went on before the trade was done, said, I'm only going there. Why?
Right.
Because he was going to get his way, no questions asked.
That's right.
Period.
Right. And who
That's
made that
why
call?
he wanted to go there.
And who made
because
that call?
he gets to do everything. And if you watched Hard Knocks, Saleh deferred to him on literally everything.
Sure, yeah, because that's probably what they told him to do.
Brad.
Yeah.
It's Brad.
It's Brad. Yeah, absolutely.
Brad. But the Jets haven't had a quarterback of
winning
that
a championship
caliber.
and being an MVP player.
They haven't had a caliber quarterback like that since Joe Namath.
Right.
And, they're desperate. Desperate times call for asking the stars what to do. And the stars told them, let Aaron do everything. And they agreed to it.
Who's Brad? Brad's Garoppolo.
Brad got too much power
Yeah.
for not being a great.
Uh-huh.
Brad's a really good player.
It's Garoppolo.
Right. He's not LeBron.
He's peak Garoppolo.
I mean, I'm sure in the NBA this happens constantly with the great players. They run the organizations.
Sure.
Of course they
Right.
do. In the NFL, this is the first time I've ever heard of a quarterback being like this. Like even Mahomes has a structure.
Russ got it. Russ got it for a year.
For a year under Hacks. And then Peyton had to come in and clean that up. Remember, he cleaned it up. But he went too far.
Because of ownership too, though. Ownership made that trade and let him have an office in there.
And a yoga studio.
Old Natty Hacks isn't going...
He had a TikTok studio, a yoga studio, handlers. He had his own floor, apparently. Peyton walked in and went, I'm going to change that. This is my point, though. You have to have a structure, even if you have really good players. If you don't, things crumble on you fast.
Well, there's a reason why Saleh didn't get fired, and it's because they're not blaming him.
They're not blaming him.
They're going, oops. Better do well next year, Raj.
I guess.